Hi guys, Blake here with Lilley's Landing Resort and Marina. I have my friend Dustin with me today, and we're going to do the one cast for you. It is Tuesday, April the 21st. Today we've boated up here right to the bottom side of the Narrows, and we are both throwing the 639 model jerkbait on a drift rig. That's an 1/8 ounce weight with a snap swivel and a barrel swivel, about 2.5 foot a leader. And there's the little 639. And the one he's using is a white shad flavor, and this one's the ghost shad flavor. So we've been out fishing for a little bit now, and we went all the way up to the cable and drifted all the way down to well, about halfway to Monkey Island, and we tried big jerk baits, scuds, and dragging these little jerk baits, and dragging the little jerk baits seemed to be the trick today. And we really did better starting about here at the bottom of the Narrows down to Short Creek than we did up top. I think we only caught 2 fish up top. Dustin's been trapped in the house for about a month now, so decided to get him out here and do a little fishing today. Fishing reports. Captain Steve Dickey had a guide trip this morning. The guy was looking to catch a trophy fish, and they said they were drifting past outlet 3 this morning, running a shad fly about 16 feet underneath an indicator, and they boated a 25.5 inch brown. And they said that they did well from the cable down here to Fall Creek, drifting scuds underneath an indicator as well. That's the only fishing report other than the one I had from the last few hours of fishing. They are running just a little less than 4 units of water. The floodgates are shut off. Starting to see some of the areas I haven't seen the bottom in are now visible again. Got to start watching out for shallow spots. I mean, with 4 units running, most of the shallow spots are still deep enough to drive over, but it's starting to get to that point. With the water changing, is definitely changing up the fishing a little bit. Some of these spots that we were drifting through are getting a lot of sunshine straight down to the bottom now. So, gonna have to change up the game plans a little bit. Oh, I missed one. Water's starting to get slow enough to get in to start really working the jigs well. A few nights ago when it was when they were still running the 2 floodgates. Had a couple buddies out here with me, and we floated down the Point Lookout bluff from Point Lookout Island all the way down here to the Narrows, and we had one big brown trout on that broke the line, caught another 23-inch rainbow, and then we lost another rainbow over 20, all using the 110 plus 1 jerkbait up against that bank. I haven't tried it too much today. I tried one pass earlier. Beautiful day on Lake Taneycomo today. Got bluebird skies. It's about 70, I don't know, 73 degrees, somewhere in there. Had to deal with a little bit of wind today here in certain spots. But overall, just a beautiful day. Lots more boats are starting to get out on the water. Oh, there's a fish. And if I can land him, that'll be a fish on the one cast. But lots more boats showing up each day now. That's good to see. And if he doesn't throw the hook, there he is. Nice little stalker. And we're drifting kind of right in the eddy that Eagle Island creates, which is always a spot that holds fish. We've been watching fish jump every time we go past it today. Quite a few over there right at the tip of the island. And Dustin's hooked up. Got a jumper. Oh, we got doubles. Dustin, if you pick that up and bring it around and show it to the camera for everybody. You're holding there for just a second. I want to get a double picture. There we go. So, even though the floodgates are shut off, it seems that they are still chasing after these little shad imitation baits. And I imagine that with how many bait fish and shad we saw come through the dam this flood run, that I imagine they'll be looking for those things for a while. As the water slows down, though, something we'll have to do is play around with your weight. You have to readjust the amount of weight that you use when you drag them, or else you'll just find yourself getting hung up on the bottom a lot. And that little guy tangled my line around the treble hook, so I got to retie. So another thing to note is you can use just about any little floating and you really want it to be a floating jerkbait. But I truly recommend taking off that belly hook, because whenever these fish hit it, they usually catch it from the back end of the bait, and all that belly hook does is give it a better chance of finding the bottom and getting your bait hung up. The double scud rig was working pretty decent earlier. I was dragging mine with a drift rig. Steve Dickey was throwing his under a float, but he had to use, I'm going to scoot the boat out a little bit, Dustin. He did have to use quite a long leader to get them to drift properly, but I do think that fishing them underneath an indicator, you can kind of see the bite better. Sometimes whenever those scuds are drifting behind a weight, the line will be loose and they'll bite onto it and let go of it before you ever know they were there. Versus if you're dragging them and you got them drifting right underneath an indicator, you can see as soon as that fish touches it, you'll see it on the indicator. And so I think that sometimes you have a better success rate of hookups drifting them under an indicator. You just gotta figure out what that right length of leader line is in order to do that, and the right amount of split shot. I think he said he was using 2 AAA split shots above his flies. Couple days ago, I went down to the Bluff side and the Taneycomo Acre side, going down towards Monkey Island, throwing that 110 +1 jerk bait. And wound up getting broke off by one big brown. Caught a 21-incher, and then later that day, right below Point Royale in the eddy, a friend of mine caught a 23¼ brown. So, and then there's that 25-inch that Steve Dickey caught. Oh no, that's definitely a snag. Let's see if I got it back. So the browns are still out moving. And just about everything I've heard them being caught on is some type of fly or jerk bait that imitates a form of shad. So if you're out here and you're looking to target those specifically, I recommend working some kind of shad imitation. And for the most part, it seems like we're catching them a little bit everywhere. So, you know, if you don't find one in one area, just kind of keep moving down the bluffs and the eddies and try it all. We're drifting pretty close to these docks here on the inside edge. I'll turn this camera up just a little bit. And then this last, on this row of docks, over here on the south side, right here at this last dock before the big straight, there's a big hang up that you can get caught on. So I always, once I get down to this last dock right here, I always reel my stuff in until I get past it. And generally I like to scoot my boat in kind of right on the seam line of this last dock and then fish this eddy behind it, whether I'm dragging a jerkbait or a scud or fishing a jig or a jerkbait. It's just a good area. Oh, I think I just saw a fishing pole underneath the water. The reel that I'm actually using right now on this rod, which this rod is a laser SG speed stick made by Lilley that we sell up in the shop. It's the one I actually use for most of my jerk baiting action, like swinging a jerk bait. But this reel that's on this rod, I actually found connected to a rod that was laying on the bottom of the lake one day that I fished out. And it still works perfectly fine. And once you make it about halfway down this flat, there are a couple more spots where there are big root wads inside this flat. So if you're ever running your boat up the bank, don't run too close to the bank. When you're drifting down, kind of pay attention, because it'd be real easy to be drifting along and standing up in the boat and the motor catch one of those root wads and go flying out. Yep, that's part of that big log right there. I think we had a little bit of a thunderstorm roll through last night. I don't know that it really brought much rain with it. Kind of just lightning and thundered and then gave out, but it was a part of that front system that was moving through yesterday. That's another thing that can throw the fishing off, because yesterday they were, working a jerk bait. They were chasing and biting it pretty well. And then today I threw, for the first hour and a half, I threw a jerk bait, and I couldn't even get one chaser to come into the boat with it. So that's just one way those storm fronts can really affect things. On top of the fact that the water level was a lot lower than they're used to seeing right now. Now that they're only running the generators and no floodgates. Dustin, you got another one? Now that they're only running the generators and no floodgates, the water temperature went from about 49, and I think it's at about 47 now. So with just the generators running, the water temperature has dropped back down a little bit. But the forecasts, you can bring him up here and see if you can get a hold of him. Grab it by the jerk bait. Oh, there you go. That'll work too. If the forecast holds true, the Lake Table Rock should keep warming up. I'd like to see the water here get just a little bit above the 50s. I think the fish get a little more aggressive in their chasing things. Another little stalker. So I don't know if I mentioned it before, but dragging these little the 762 shad and the 639 shad has been one of the probably most primary ways in the last 2 weeks that I've been catching those big brown trout. And many of them are coming from, about 50 yards above our dock and then drifting all the way down to Monkey Island. Once again, it's not a way that and you'll still catch, you know, some little rainbows here and there, but primarily you drift kind of the middle all the way down, and you don't catch as many fish, but there you have a much better chance at whenever you do finally have a bite of it being a nicer fish, being a big brown. You got another one? So some of those days where I caught those big browns, I drifted for, you know, a couple hours with little success, and then all of a sudden you'd find that big one. And sometimes finding a big fish, that's what it's about, is just that patience and keeping up with what you know they'll bite. It's just about finding that timing whenever you get it in front of them. Which is the same with working those bigger jerk baits. You know, you could fish a few bluffs, you know, for a couple hours with maybe a couple bites or a couple chasers, but if you stick with it and you're not worried about catching numbers, there's a good chance that eventually you're going to find that big fish. And the last 4 or 5 days, that's what I've really been doing. I haven't been dragging these much. I've been getting out with that bigger jerk bait and fishing the bluffs and fishing it over the areas in the water where I know are flats, you know, underneath the middle of the water. Just looking for that big boy. Now that now that all the water is coming from the bottom of the lake instead of some over the floodgates, the clarity of the water is improving. It was a little there was a little turbidity to it whenever they were running the floodgates over the top, but it's I don't know, it's quite a bit clearer now that I'm really looking at it. I think let's go just a couple more minutes. Maybe we'll drag past the boat ramp right here. Something else that would probably be worth trying would be the red or cerise San Juan worm, which maybe if I get out a little bit tomorrow I'll try that, or an egg pattern. I know that this, like one of those I caught maybe 4 or 5 days ago, I caught a 22-inch rainbow down here that and Dustin's hooked up again, that just dumped eggs everywhere whenever I picked her up. And so I think it's getting ready to be that time of the year where they dump their eggs. And so an egg pattern, orange, peach, even the yellows, probably be a good choice. So maybe if I get out tomorrow I'll throw an egg pattern or a San Juan worm and let you guys know how that works. Alright, just a minute or two left and we're gonna call it a day. This flat right here at the boat ramp is actually one of the spots I'd back the boat off maybe another 20 feet and throw in towards the bank. Not all the way against it because it's very shallow up there. But, you know, within 20 or 30 feet of the bank, and then work that bigger jerkbait back to the boat. And we were finding and getting a lot of hits from big browns right about where the boat is now. Of course, they could have moved away from this area now that it's a few feet shallower, but this is one of those areas that whenever I go past, I like to work that jerkbait in. There's that log that steals all my lures. Oh, man, there's a fish. I'm glad he bit that. I might have got hung up in that log. Alright, and we made it right to the end of the boat ramp, so I think with this little guy here, we're going to call it a day. So, we thank you guys for watching. Like and share us on Facebook. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube page yet, you can press the subscribe button and hit the little bell. It'll notify you first whenever we post a video. We thank you guys for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow to do it again.